Comments and views expressed on the Miracles on the Street show are the views of those who make them and not necessarily reflect the views of Terry Young, Miracles on the Street, or any of its affiliates or sponsors.
That's a miracle today. Amen. I do too. I need some faith. You never know. Supernatural. In a mountain of God, I said a miracle. I said a miracle. I said a miracle.
This is the story of how Brooklyn was born. I went in to the hospital, I believe on December 18th for elevated blood pressure and swollen feet. It's supposed to be just overnight. They ended up keeping me for 3 days. Never found anything, so they sent me home on December 20th, which was a Friday. And then I had a doctor's appointment on December 23rd, which I became quite dizzy. And they sent me home and told me to come back on Christmas Eve. So we did that, and Christmas Eve night, I wasn't feeling the baby move, and then I started having contractions about 7 o'clock. So we went into the hospital, and the delivery was pretty fast. I was, dilated to a 3 by midnight, and by 8:30, well 8 o'clock, I was pushing, and by 8:30 she was born on Christmas morning. But when she came out, the cord was wrapped around her neck, and there was a knot in her umbilical cord, which is really rare, and they told us that most babies die in utero or are stillborn. And as soon as they got her out, the nurse noticed she wasn't breathing right, so they took her and we're, checking on her. They knew something wasn't right, so they let me hold her for maybe 45 seconds, and they took her away. And then they told us that she had hyperglycemia, which was really low blood pressure, or blood sugar, and they were working on her all of Christmas. But during that time, after they took her out of the delivery room, I got sick and really dizzy, and had an infection, and they didn't know why. So I was taken to another room and hooked up to IVs and medication, and I never really got to see her on Christmas at all. Christmas night, they decided they were taking her to Loma Linda's NICU. So they had a transport team come and take her. So I got to see her on her way out of the hospital for less than 5 minutes in her little incubator. And off to Loma Linda she went, and I was staying at the hospital I was at. I ended up being in the hospital for 3 days. They never could figure out why I had an infection, what it was from, or what it was. They just had me hooked up to IVs the whole time. And so by the time Friday came around, they decided to release me. And so from my hospital bed, I went to her hospital bed in Loma Linda. And she had off and on her blood sugar would dip. So they had her hooked up to IVs and medication and feeding tubes. So day by day, we watched her, and they put her on a medication to stabilize her insulin, which helped her, and she was on that for a couple days, and they slowly were able to wean her off of that, and then we were able to work with her on her feedings, and we finally got her blood sugar stabilized. She was in the NICU for 9 days. We celebrated New Year's Eve there. And for New Year's, she decided she would get better. So she was able to stabilize and started eating on her own. Within a day, we went from eating in a tube to her taking the bottle all by herself and being able to finish it. And because of that, they were able to release her. And she was able to come home without medication. And all we have to do is check her blood sugar every 3 hours right now, just to make sure she's still stable, which is fine by me as long as she's not in the hospital anymore. So we've continued to do that. She's been out almost a week tomorrow. And she's eating like a piggy now. And she's doing really good, and her blood sugar's been stable. And she just is a newborn now, where she sleeps and she eats and she's happy, and she only cries when she wants her food. But yes, Brooklyn had quite an adventure coming into the world, and we ended 2013 with a bang. So she's our little miracle, because her due date was January 6th. So she came when she knew she had to. It's been really emotional, but I'm very thankful for everybody that prayed and kept up with checking on her. And I'm thankful that we were able to find somewhere to stay at Loma Linda, which was the Ronald McDonald House, so that I could stay with her every day. So now we're just in the process of both of us getting better, and everything so far is good. She'll still have to see her doctors for a little while just to do checkups, but other than that, Brooklyn is doing great, and we are very blessed that everything happened for a reason, and that she came 2 weeks early, and she now shares her birthday with Jesus. So that is her story, and we hope that it helps somebody, because it was really hard watching her with the tubes and the IVs and not being able to hold her the way you want to, because you can't mess with her wires. So we had some great nurses though that really helped at Loma Linda and at Hemet, that really took care of us and were really there to help us out. So we greatly appreciate everybody that stood with us and got us through it. They still don't have a diagnosis as to why she had such low blood sugar. They said she's a very complex case, that most babies just kind of snap out of it within a day. But she's our 8th wonder of the world. So we're very grateful and blessed that we now can start 2014 wonderfully, and hopefully this year she is able to grow and be happy and healthy and not have any problems whatsoever. So that's our testimony on Brooklyn's entrance into the Lord.
Written by Terry Young, Fresh Bread from Heaven's Bakery brings you a fresh, invigorating view of stories that were inspired of God and penned by scribes of ancient times, gathered together into a book called the Bible. You will get some nuggets of truth as you read Fresh Bread from Heaven's Bakery, which will shatter what the church has taught you or what you have read and found on the internet. Draw your own conclusions, believe what you will, but one thing for sure, Fresh Bread from Heaven's Bakery will provide you with truths. So order your copy today from Amazon.com or from www.theorygiftbaskets.com. Comment